Hey everyone, it's Phil Wade. How are you tonight? Sorry, I'm a few minutes late. I had some difficulties with my camera, but I was able to actually figure it out for once. So hopefully everybody can see me, hear me. Hey Kia, how are you? Anybody else? Let us know who's here. Please say hello. Type in your name. We'll get going in just a moment. Hey Jason, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. All right, appreciate that for sure. Everyone able to hear me and see me okay? Hey Peggy, how are you? Yep, you got to take that refresher. It's important. We're getting into a new year soon and want to get out there and, kind of kick some butt. So let me move the slide and we'll kind of get going. What I've learned in the past in regards to these trainings. So, the more you can participate. Hey, Elsa, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate that. The more you participate in this training, ask questions, give us your thoughts. I found those to be better. Hey, Andres, how are you? Good to see you. Thank you so much. All right. So it's kind of like a 3-night crash course in becoming a successful real estate agent. So hopefully everybody will be able to take all three classes. It's tonight, tomorrow night, again at 6:00, and then on Wednesday as well. So tonight, the first half is going to be the listing side, right? So the listing side, is the better side of the business. Why? Well, here's why. So, when you have a listing, you have a pretty good chance to be able to meet buyers. I'm going to use the F word. Anybody know what that F word is? For free, right? So you're able to meet buyers for free off your listing. So now obviously your first goal and your first duty to your seller is to try to get that home sold, right? But many times people that come to open houses, call you off your sign, call you off the internet. In the end, it's not really the house for them, but you got to meet them, right? You got to meet them. And what you're going to want to do, and we'll talk more about this when we talk about how to get your business going, is you're going to switch the conversation, right? You're going to switch the conversation from selling the house to selling you, right? To selling you. Every single buyer certainly needs, representation. So, we're going to kind of go through that listing side, and then, we're going to kind of switch gears tonight. The second half is how to get your business going. So that by far is the most important part. Like, again, I had done some kind of one-on-one coaching with a couple of agents over the last couple of weeks, and guess what? They don't have anything really going, and they wonder kind of why they struggle, why they're not getting transactions, because they're really not doing much. Like, your efforts are around finding business, right? The properties often sell themselves. The buyers need our assistance, right, to make sure they don't overpay and the house is in good condition and all that. But ultimately, we have to find clients. So we're going to give you really 5 concrete ideas or strategies to implement to find clients. And then tomorrow night, we're going to talk a little bit about the buyer side, kind of beginning to end, from the time you start working with somebody all the way until closing. And then on Wednesday night, when we take our real estate course and exam, unfortunately, so much of what they teach us is really not relevant to being a real estate agent. It's more of a test on just kind of general knowledge, right? So most of what they test us on really never kind of comes up when we're out there working, right? But on Wednesday night, we're going to go through those key concepts that have a very, very high probability of coming up, you're going to run into it. What do I mean? Agency, fair housing, RESPA, appraisal contingency, financing contingency, seller's disclosure, lead paint, a whole bunch of different things. And everything is taught here. So as the broker, half my job is like recruiting. I love recruiting. I love talking to the agents. And then the other half is helping the agents, being the broker, right? Fielding those, those questions, those difficult situations, right? So again, coming out of these 3 nights, you should have a much stronger level of confidence in yourself that you can go out there and you can get this done, meaning become a successful real estate agent. In the beginning, excuse me, I have to blow my nose here, a little sniffles, in the beginning, very difficult, right? You got to find clients. We don't have a lot of experience. Sometimes people might know we're new. That's okay, right? You got to, everybody, without exception, everybody that succeeded as a real estate agent started where you are, right? As kind of a newer agent or, an agent still trying to get your business going. They succeeded. They're no better than you. They're no smarter than you. Probably don't work as hard as you, but they figured it out. So you got to figure it out. And what you have to figure out is finding clients, whatever that is. So what we kind of go through, in the second half is what worked for me when I was an agent. But we'll talk about some other strategies as well that, I personally didn't utilize, but maybe something for you. All right. All right. So what are we going to go through specifically tonight? We're going to go through the listing appointment, right? So this assumes you have the appointment, right? You're ready to go on that, listing appointment and do your listing presentation. In the second half, when we talk about how to get your business going, we are going to go through what you need to be doing in order to find listings, right? I mean, again, it's just a question of doing it, devoting the time every day, right? Again, it's not fun. It's not the most exciting stuff, but it's really grinding it out, making those calls, doing the follow-up, being on top of things. And if you do that, you will succeed. All right. So we're going to talk about the listing appointment, how to prepare for it, what you need. Then we're going to go through, we actually rolled out probably about 2 months ago now, a brand new listing presentation. So we're going to go through that. You can find that listing presentation on Join Dalton Wade under the collateral tab. And it's fully editable, fully downloadable, right? So you can just edit it up, put your information in, make it specific for your particular situation. And you got a bang up listing presentation that you can deliver either via your laptop or your iPad, right? When you go, every listing appointment and every listing presentation, 99% of the time, I mean, for me, it was 100% of the time, it always happens at the property, right? You got to go to the property to be able to see what it looks like. And they're going to, oh, what do you think it's worth, right? And you gotta, give them some comps, right? We'll talk a little bit about that as well, right? So again, you're going to be prepared. And then, it's a discussion, right? It's taking them through what you're going to do and then brainstorming with your client. I mean, I think for me, I can only think of a couple times ever that I turned down a listing. Why? Why did I turn them down? Too far off, way off from what I think it was worth and kind of what that seller thought it was worth, right? And here's what happens. So the best listing, is just a little bit, maybe a little overpriced, a little high, and it gives you some time, right, to do some open houses, to meet some people, to maybe get some other business from it. Back, I call it from 2020, May of 2020 till May of 2022, 2 years, it was insanity out there. Everything was selling. That's not the case anymore. So all you really had to do then was put the property out there. If it was priced anywhere near right, it sold. So today, that's not really the case. Today, there's a lot more listings. People, back then, everybody was like, there's nothing for my clients to look at. Never mind if you're working with like an FHA buyer or a VA buyer, it was very difficult to get their offers accepted because they were getting beat out by cash and conventional. But that's not the case today. So we're going to kind of go through that listing presentation. I'm going to deliver it to you as if hold on, in my rush, I did not do one thing. So when I move the slide, you're not going to be able to see it. So let's see if we fix that. All right, I think we did, right? So perfect. All right, so got that taken care of. So again, we're going to talk about the listing presentation, the listing agreement, getting the property into the MLS, setting up an open house, uploading the attachments so that when that buyer's agent makes an offer, everything is ready to go. They've sent in the seller's disclosure. It's all signed. If it's house is built before 1978, the lead-based paint is done. Everything, is there so that that buyer and the buyer's agent can submit a complete offer. Then we're going to talk a little bit about receiving an offer, right? Receiving multiple offers. When you're a buyer's agent, you submit the offer, right? You write up the offer, you send it into the listing agent. Here, you're the listing agent, right? You are going to receive the offer and how we deal with that. Spend just a minute on, setting up the property on, Zillow, Realtor.com. That all happens automatically on the back end. But, your first listing with Dalton Wade, you just want to check and make sure that feed out of the MLS, everything is connected, everything is working. So kind of beginning to end, right? And then we're going to switch gears. Really, this second part of tonight's training is, to me, it's the most important training, I think, of all. Because if you can't find clients, that's where realtors struggle. Trust me, I know this, right? I talk to them. I know they don't do things to help them find business. Really, at the end of the day, a very good Dalton Wade agent said to me once, "Oh, we're in the lead generation business. We're not real estate agents. Real estate is just kind of what we sell. But really what we're doing is we have to generate those leads, right? Seller leads, buyer leads, right? And we're going to talk about the various ways you can do that. And then how to monitor yourself, how to make sure this is working as effectively as possible." So any questions before I kind of get into the, the listing appointment and listing presentation? All right, I don't see anybody typing, so I assume not. All right, so the listing appointment, right? So again, there's two ways, right? Two ways you can do the listing appointment, at least what I've seen. Way one, you go to the house, you check the house out, you go back home, and you run the comps, and then you come back. It's like a two-step process. Takes more time, right? I personally, my strategy, I combined it all into one. I felt strong enough that I could talk about those comps without actually ever having seen that house until I got there. And again, here's what happens. Every seller, they're going to tell you what they want to list it for. They're going to tell you what they want to list their home for. They already know that. No matter what you show them, no matter what data you present to them, they have an idea in their mind before you go there. This is where I want to be. And as I said, my approach was to take the listing, even if it was a little bit high. I had a property once I want to list it at 249. They tell me 269. I'm like, okay, fine, let's do it. Right? I didn't argue because it was close enough and it was a decent listing and it had a lot of activity, right? Everything I'm looking for, popular area. And then what happened? What happened? The first month, we probably had 15 appointment showings. 15 appointment showings, and we had another 35 people come to the open house. So after the first month, we've had 50 people come. 50. It's a true story. 50 people. Not one offer. It's all about probability, right? What is the probability that person 51 who's going to take a look at that house is going to make an offer? In today's environment, probably very low, right? The market is speaking. The market is telling you and your seller, hey, we are potentially overpriced. And the client wanted to sell, right? It was vacant. They're losing money every month. So we go to 259. Again, very similar results. Another 15 people, 35 people come to the open house. No offers. No offers. All the feedback is you're high. There's better properties than yours, right? Again, sometimes you'll hear, oh, it's high, and then the next person makes an offer. But when you consistently are hearing, right, that it's overpriced and you're not getting any offers, there's only really one thing you can do. You can pray, right, that the market is going to start appreciating like it did, in 2020. If you had a listing in, May of 2020 and it was overpriced, well, guess what? It sold. Might not have sold it right away, but within a few weeks, a few months, it went under agreement because everything is selling. A rising tide lifts all boats, right? But that's not what we're dealing with right now. If anything, prices maybe are even depreciating a bit, right? So you can't now hope for the market to take you out, to fix that you've overpriced that home. So again, then we lower it to 249. Really, the first week, we get an offer at 240, goes under agreement, kind of right where I wanted to start, but they had to find that out themselves. I had another listing. I want to list it at 439. They tell me they want to go out at 459. I'm like, fine, let's do that. 459 it is. First week, 2 offers, both in the 450s. Went to highest and best, multiple offer, right? There we got it close. There the seller was smarter than Phil, right? Again, sometimes it's difficult, but again, if you price it a little low, the people will come out of the woodwork. I often tell people like, oh, I have this listing, it's 500,000 and we're not really getting any activity. Okay, that's fine. What if you listed it for 300? What do you think would happen? There'd be 50 people wanting to buy that house. So you have to find, as the listing agent, where buyers emerge. They are out there, right? They are still out there. So you have to find what price point will buyers have interest. And sometimes we have to do that by lowering the price. So again, you're going to have that presentation. You're going to talk to them. We'll kind of go through it now. Right, so you're going to prepare the comps. Tomorrow night, when we talk about working with a buyer, we're going to go through, how to comp out a property. Again, a comp is just one person's opinion. It's your opinion, right? It's what you think that house will sell for. Sometimes we get it right, sometimes we don't get it correct, right? But you gotta start somewhere. And hopefully where you're starting is pretty close to what it's actually worth. That's what causes the most demand. So you're going to have your comps, right? You're going to do those, even though you haven't seen the property, you're going to have them with you. You're going to be prepared to discuss them. You know, 4 comps. And again, we'll go through in much more detail tomorrow night on how to comp out a property. It works both for when you're preparing something, you know, for the buyer, and then also, you know, as the listing agent. So again, as I mentioned, there's kind of 2 ways. One way you go, then you come back. You know, my preferred methodology was, hey, let me do this in one appointment. I've got everything with me. I'm bringing the listing agreement. I've got the lead-based paint if it's built before 1978. I've got the condo rider. You know, I've got the HOA addendum. I'm bringing the seller's disclosure. I've got all the collateral, all the forms, everything I need, right, in order to get that listing and to be able to, you know, get it live. Obviously, I got to come back, you know, with my photographer, right? And then you're going to take a tour of the home. They're going to tour you on their home. And what you're going to find is it pretty much works all the time just like this. They are going to be selling you. They're going to be telling you how much they like their master bedroom or their pool area or the Florida room or the whatever it happens to be that they really like about their home. They are going to mention that to you, right? They're going to mention that to you. But you're there kind of with that sort of skeptical eye, right? And then tomorrow night when we talk about working with a buyer and how to show a house, you know, what are we looking at? You know, we're looking at, you know, the roof, the electrical, the windows, the AC, right? The flow of the house, those kind of big ticket items. You know, maybe you have 3 comps and they're all sold between 480 and 500, but they're all, you know, very, very updated, rehabbed in some cases, and generally speaking, in nicer condition, you know, than the house you're visiting. So you probably got to be maybe at 479 or 469. Or maybe you get there and you have some comps that are maybe, you know, some of the homes were a little older, and then you go there and you're like, wow, I'd live here. This is an awesome house. Everything's updated. You know, the flow is great. You know, it's a great listing to have. Then maybe you can go out at 499. At least that's maybe what you would suggest to the client. So you're going to take that tour, right? They're going to give you that tour and they're going to promote their house. Anybody have any idea why they are promoting their house to you? What they're trying to accomplish by doing that? So they're promoting their house. They're basically selling you their home. Any idea why someone might do that? Thank you, Kia. Exactly, right? They think you are going to be able to list that house for more and consequently get them more, which may or may not be true, right? May or may not be true. The goal is to get that home sold in the least amount of time for the most money. Absolutely, right? Thank you, Peggy. So it will justify what they're asking, right? They you know, people love their home. So, right? So again, you're just taking it in. You're listening, you're observing, you're maybe looking at the roof before you knocked on their door, you're looking at the electrical box, you know, you're checking out that house. Because if there's a lot of deferred maintenance, things haven't been updated, you know, then that house isn't going to sell for as much. So you never know. You never know what it's going to be like. You never know what you're going to find. But hey, you got to start somewhere. So you're going to take that tour, and then you're going to roll into your listing presentation, usually delivered, you know, via your laptop, iPad, digitally, so you can download this presentation, right, and you know, deliver it right to them. So you're going to put your name in, your email, your phone number. You're going to have a little bit of, you know, information kind of about yourself, right? There's some dummy information in here so you can kind of update all this, right? And again, if you don't have a ton of sales, that's fine too. What you tell people is, hey, I've got a great brokerage, I've got people behind me, I'm going to work really, really hard for you. And then you're going to go from there. You're going to build your business. So you have a little thing about clients come first. And then, I like to show them, hey, kind of what's going on in the market, right? So again, still pretty good, still a lot of sales, again, not a ton of properties, out there for sale. But again, these numbers are higher in terms of the amount of homes, and again, you can pick this from any town, any city, any price point. I like to include single family and condo, and I just drop the number in. Why do I do this? Why am I showing the seller this data? Because here's why. Basically, things are selling, right? Things are moving, things are going under agreement, right? The market is considered balanced, doesn't favor the seller or the buyer when there's 6 months of inventory. Here there's, roughly, you're getting 100 sales, a little less. You've got a month and a half of inventory, not a lot, right? So it's still pretty buoyant. So the point being, and what you're trying to communicate to your seller is, hey, if we start a little high and it doesn't go under agreement, my benchmark was 30 days, we may need to lower the price. Sometimes just 10,000 can make all the difference in the world. Again, remember what I said, you got to find where the buyers have interest. Something sitting there for 90 days, not a lot of activity, not a lot of showings. The market is saying, hey, not priced right. There's better value in other homes. That's the takeaway. People used to say to me like, oh, why don't they just make an offer? Well, that's not really how it works, because all the buyer knows, they know two things. What that property looks like when they're there, the condition, the features, and the price. They don't know that the seller is willing to come off, 5% if they're made an offer. They don't know that. So they don't make an offer. They make an offer on a property that seems to be priced more correctly. So you're going to take them through this, and then you're going to put in their mind, especially if they're kind of on the high end, hey, after X amount of time, we may need to lower the price. Why you should list your home with Dalton Wade, right? So you're going to kind of take them through, beginning to end. You're going to recommend the property price, right? They're going to tell you what they want to list it for. So they're going to ask you when you get to the, the end of your listing presentation, they are going to say, hey, what do you think we should list this at? And they're going to put you on the spot, and you better be prepared to give them a number. I'm going to professionally photograph your home, right? Not me, but I'm going to have a professional photographer come. He's got the wide angle lens. He's got the drone. Photography is one of the most important attributes of a good listing. Think about you when you're a buyer's agent, right? How do you do it? I look very quickly. I look and see, oh, it's been on the market 90 days. The photos don't look so great. I just skip over it. Oh, maybe they had a price adjustment and the photos look good. Maybe I'll schedule a showing, right? So that professional photography is critical, and it's critical to you, right? Because remember what I said. Listings have what I call the multiplier effect, right? Hey, Peggy, if on Join Dalton Wade, there's a tab collateral. It's right there. Just click on collateral. There's a listing presentation. There's a buyer's agent presentation, and then there's some brand guidelines to kind of, help you look a little more Dalton Wade-ish. But it's right there on the website. You can download it, download right into PowerPoint, make the adjustments, save it, and then, deliver it, practice with your, with your husband, your significant other, your friend, your child, whatever, get good at, delivering that listing presentation. You never know, right? You never know. Meaning, are they just talking to you? Or is it competitive? Meaning they have, 2 or 3 agents they're interviewing. You always want to think, hey, I'm going on that listing presentation. It's going to be competitive. You want to wear your best outfit, be prepared, right? Because again, you never know who you're going to. I would say about at the most an hour, about an hour. Depends on how much, kind of chit chat there is. I mean, looking at the house is 10 to 15 minutes. Most of your work is done before, right? In terms of having, kind of done the research, having an idea, as to kind of what you think it should be listed at, right? So photography, very important, really two reasons. One, helps bring people in, right? And then 2, sometimes you have an opportunity to meet some of those people. I remember having a listing, no lie, I must have had probably 200 people come, no offers. Why? My marketing was better than the property. You got to the property and there were some very low ceilings and some things that kind of made it, not that desirable, but nobody saw that on the listing, right? The listing is a digital marketing piece, right? And you want to, deliver that, very effectively. You want to communicate, you do a great job marketing their property. Sometimes we'll go to homes and they'll be very cluttered. I mean, sometimes people don't have as nice of furniture. That's fine too. But, declutter, make it simple. People sometimes, meaning buyers, have a hard time sort of seeing through, right? So, again, maybe if it's empty, maybe suggest doing some staging. Staging can be very effective. It's very difficult to photograph empty rooms. Doesn't look so great. One of the things we can do through the MLS, it's called reverse prospecting. So any agent that has set up their client to receive, the property, the new listings coming out of the MLS, you can send them an email. Hey, new listing, open house, price reduction. Again, multiple touches. You never know what is the thing that drives, that buyer who's going to buy that house, to that property, or their agent. We have Dalton Wade Social. We'll talk a little bit about that on the next couple slides. We have a video program. We're going to do a set schedule of open houses, right? Again, open houses, sellers typically like them. It shows your, I remember having a seller like, I picked up the listing. Oh, did they do any open houses? No, they were lazy. They just, again, open houses, great way to meet people. My stats there were 1 out of 25. Meaning 25 people came to my open house, 1 became my client on the buyer side. But again, we'll talk more about this when we talk about how to get your business going. It's very structured, right? You're there obviously trying to sell that house, but a very small percentage of people go to an open house and then purchase that home. Most people don't buy, so it's a great opportunity for you to meet people. I'm going to coordinate all the showings. I'm going to follow up on all the showings. What are they telling us? I used to ask the buyer's agents to email me. Then I had like kind of a, cut and paste email. Thank you for showing the property. My client's most interested in what you thought of the price. Can you give us some feedback? And about 50% of the agents would actually respond. If you're sending that out through showing time, you're going to get a lower response rate. A little more personal, right? And then you're going to share that feedback. Like I said, if everybody's telling you you're overpriced, these are people, meaning the agents, they're out there now looking, searching for their client. Now, as I said, sometimes you'll hear overpriced, and then the next person makes an offer. But if you're consistently hearing, hey, it's not priced right and you're not getting any offers, got to have a conversation with your client. I'm going to negotiate all the offers. You want to let them know you're a strong negotiator. What do I mean by that? A strong negotiator. Okay, here's what I mean. You're going to find out who that buyer is. Maybe you're going to call their lender. Ask them, what did he do to pre-approve them? Some people are more desperate to buy than others. I mean, this is a true situation. I had the listing and actually had a Dalton Wade agent conduct the open house for me. He was new and I wanted to see if I could get him some business. And he actually met a client, but then he calls me to give me some feedback on how it went. And he had a really good turnout. I think he had like 12 people. And he tells me like one person has been there the entire time. And then lo and behold, that night an offer comes in, Sunday night. And it's kind of a low offer, quite honestly. A lot of contingencies, right? House is listed at $279. The offer is $265. They want a $5,000 closing credit. They want an appraisal contingency, which I hate. I'll talk more about that as we get into working with the buyer, both tomorrow night and on Wednesday night. And they have a home to sell. And he doesn't send over a pre-approval. So I'm like, hey, can you send me their pre-approval? I'll get this over to my client. But I'm not really feeling it. I'm not feeling this is going to go anywhere. But then, lo and behold, the pre-approval comes over and there's no mention of them needing to sell their house. So I call the agent back and I'm like, typically when you get a pre-approval for somebody, that needs to sell their house to buy this house, the lender tells you that right in their pre-approval. Then he goes, well, they are very strong and they don't need to sell their house to buy this house. That was the jackpot, right? I mean, they're under the gun. And their house is under agreement. In less than a month, they are homeless or moving in with, the husband's parents, the wife's parents, renting, have to move again, right? So we kind of have the leverage. But I found that out by digging. Now, again, we're on the listing appointment. We want to win that listing. Tell that story. Don't say I, say we. Anything I've done, if you're a Dalton Wade agent, you can say we. You are an extension of me and vice versa. It just shows to the client that you really do more. You dig around, you find out. Now, conversely, you could have, inquired and, that person putting the offer in, they're leasing. They're leasing. And their lease isn't up for 5 months. Not as much motivation. Harder to push around, harder to get that price up. But the point is, you're communicating to that potential seller, you work hard for them. You dig in, right? You find out who that buyer is. So you're going to negotiate that offer to try to boost that price up to the benefit of your seller. Then you're going to negotiate all the home inspection issues, right? Buyers, the home inspection, it's not a second bite of the apple. It's not another time to beat down the seller and get a reduction in the price, but that's how a lot of buyers view it. What you want to communicate to that seller is that you are hard as nails, right? You don't get pushed around. You push the buyers around. No, we're not going to do that. Go find another house. I had somebody One time, great listing, and they wanted 17,000 off for the roof. My client's name was Tom. He says, give them, it's really incredible. They're asking for 17,000. He says, give them $100. Like, if that's not the big, I don't know what is. Guess what? They took the $100. Again, every situation is different. You never know what's going to happen. You never know how, motivated your client. Yeah, absolutely. But again, hey, Amy, how are you? Good to see you. But, on this listing appointment, you're trying to win the listing, right? You're trying to give them stories. Thank you so much. You're trying to give them stories, confidence that you're the guy. You're going to work hard for them. You're going to negotiate hard for them, and you push that buyer around. My philosophy was, if I sold it to one person, if I got it under agreement, I'll find somebody else. What do I not bend on? Roof, AC, electrical. Windows, right? Anything that buyer could see and their agent could see, when they were viewing the home, like that needed to have been factored into their offer. The roof just didn't get old between, the time you submit your offer and the home inspection. That need to be thought through. And again, these are good tips for when you're the buyer's agent. You want to really communicate to your client, like, what is going on as best you can with that house. Now, there's always situations where, termites or mold or rodents or something that really nobody was aware of, the buyer really couldn't have seen. Yeah, you probably need to do something for them. Because the next buyer, if you kick them to the curb, that next buyer is going to want the same thing. So you might as well address it now. So again, things you could see, things the buyer's agent could see, pretty much non-negotiable. Again, these are with your client's blessing, right? You're not just, unilaterally, arbitrarily making decisions. And then you're going to review the settlement statement with them so that the title company will do that, but you want to do that as well to make sure they understand all the charges and costs. And then closing. Dalton Wade, we're an internet-based brokerage. Everything happens online. That's where it all happens today. Very few people walk into a real estate office. Again, if you're, at Disney or maybe on the beach, you can get some foot traffic. But for all intents and purposes, if you're living, in a neighborhood, away from kind of tourist destination spots, there's nobody coming into a real estate office. It's all done online, right? That's where everybody searches. We consider ourselves to be internet marketing experts, right? That listing is going to be distributed to all it's going to be on MLS. It's also going to be distributed to all the, the brokerages, all their agents. Dalton Wade, we're closing in on 1,500 agents. Every one of them has a website. Every one of them has that listing, right? It's on thousands and thousands of sites. And then the consumer sites, Zillow, Trulia, Realtor, Homes.com, it's pretty much everywhere. It's blanketing the internet. So their listing and a listing video with voiceover will be on every site with the data feed from the MLS. The internet is the great equalizer. I've had people say to me, oh, what about international buyers? Well, guess what? International buyers are on Zillow or on Homes.com or on Realtor.com. There are no international buyer websites. It just doesn't work like that. That listing will be distributed far and wide. That's what you're communicating to your client. You're going to do a great job putting that listing together with the photography, and then it's going to be out there so every possible buyer can find it. Social media. Social media And again, we're going to talk more about social media when we talk about how to get your business going. But social media is, I mean, it continues to grow and it continues to become more and more important every year, every year. So their listing is going to get pushed out to Facebook, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, or now they call it X, YouTube, right? So again, you may not have all these channels, so obviously you're not going to tell them, hey, it's going to be on Pinterest if you don't have a Pinterest account, but it'll feed into there. The way to get the top dollar for a home is the most amount of people see it, are exposed to it. There could be that one person, right, that you found via social media, right, and he's willing to pay $10,000 more, right? So you're blanketing the internet and social media with that listing. And then we have the video, which is tied into the social media. So we'll take your listing and it will turn it into a video complete with voiceover. I mean, you have to go into the back end. It's called Paradigm. Elise does training on that every Thursday, right? So again, you know, you want to make sure you understand the software, you're good using the software. I mean, it has kind of, you know, double benefit. First benefit is great to talk about when you're on the listing appointment. And then the second benefit is potentially getting the house sold. But more importantly, you look strong on social media. I mean, as I said, you know, a lot of what I do is recruiting, and I'll look on an agent's, you know, before I call them or chat with them, I'll look and Google them, and, you know, I'll look and see their Facebook or their realtor.com, whatever it is. And it is scary. It is scary bad. There's nothing there. There's been no post. Like, you know, I can't tell you, like on realtor.com, as an example, because I'll type in their name, realtor, nothing there. Blank. Like, when I see somebody with like a bio and a photo, it's like, yeah, this person at least has a clue. So many agents, they don't even know what they're doing. This is marketing. What you're actually selling is you. You're not selling real estate. You're selling yourself. And the better you get at that, and the more disciplined you are around that, the better you will do. So again, the video, you know, gets pushed out to all the third-party websites. You know, it can, and then you can take the link, right, and put the link into the MLS, and it's actually branded. So the video is playing on the right, and then on the left is your photo, your contact info, right? The consumer can actually text you right from within the video. Maybe you get a direct buyer. Does anybody know what a direct buyer is? If not, I'll tell you. A direct buyer is somebody that doesn't have an agent and they contact you as the listing agent. I like that, winking at a girl in the dark. Yeah, right. I mean, it's that's a good one, Andre. So yeah, I mean, it's you're marketing, you're promoting, you're you know, Google yourself, type your name in, right? Realtor, see what comes up. See how it looks. If it doesn't look so good, fix it. Get it to be better. So it creates a property website, a YouTube channel with all your videos, a property flyer. So some really good stuff. You know, we do training on Paradigm every Thursday. It's a good program. It'll help you. It'll make you stronger on social. Engage with it. Possibly. I mean, you'd have to ask. I know, Key. I know you're down in Sarasota. I've got a guy. His name is Dan Henson. Dan has a small team in Sarasota. He's done really well with YouTube, really well. I mean, I've written him some, incredible checks. I'll send everybody in the morning a link to his, YouTube channel. And again, it's not, it's, my top 10 restaurants, my least favorite restaurant, the best beaches, the best, a lot of it is just information about the area. But he's consistently turning out those videos, right? And getting great results. I mean, it's getting a little more crowded, right? It's not as, like 2-3 years ago, I mean, you could really clean up if you had a good YouTube channel. You can still do that today, but there's more people onto it. But again, it is definitely something to work on. It takes time. I mean, he has a whole podcast studio. I went down there with Elise probably about a month ago. We banged out, 18 videos for Dalton Wade. We're just getting them posted now. It took like 3 hours. And then he has all the editing and, because you want it to look professional. But it is something to definitely have in your toolkit. So these are kind of, these are, they just turn them into YouTube videos. They're not, and again, where they go and, is anybody searching on the address? Maybe not so much. It's more when it's pushed out, right, to Zillow, Realtor, those third-party websites. That's where you have the best chance of actually getting some leads off it. But a lot of this, which you're going to hear me say later in the presentation, it's about structure, right? It's about time, commitment. I mentioned those couple of agents, again, there's no way based on what they're doing, they can succeed. Because they're not really doing anything. For me, I was out there every weekend conducting open houses. It was all about the more people I meet, the more business I'm going to get. And it's a multi-pronged attack. Many folks, many agents, they have all their eggs in one basket. Oh, they're buying leads from Zillow, and then all of a sudden Zillow slows down or something happens. They have nothing else. They're solely relying on that one source. Now, that can be a good source, but you need other ways to find clients. Open houses. So again, right up front, I'm telling them I'm going to do 6 in a row. I mean, if you want to succeed as a real estate agent, you need to be out there all the time conducting open houses, meeting people. That's what it's about. I can't tell you how many clients I got. Many of you know Claren. I met her and her husband at an open house when I had like 3 agents at the time, and she ended up joining, and, she was a tremendous agent. She's kind of gone more into, admin capacity because, her husband, Nick, is in the Coast Guard. They've been transferred out of the area. But so again, it's more leads, more opportunities. It's a numbers game. And if you think like that and you say, hey, I'm going to amp up these different channels to meet the most amount of people possible, good things will happen. Then we're going to get into the pricing. So again, this is all adjustable. Dalton Wade, you can charge whatever you like, right? I mean, here he was doing, I had, put this presentation together, for a Dalton Wade agent. He was charging 5%. He was keeping 2 and he was giving 3. Most times we see something else. Most times we see the listing agent keeping 3 and then offering 2 to the buyer's agent. And then if he found, it's called a direct buyer, right, that doesn't have a buyer's agent, he was going to charge 3%. Again, you can charge whatever you want. I was out there with a very aggressive listing commission. Why? Here's why. basically, in my mind, I can pay Zillow or I can pay somebody else to generate leads for me. Oh, well, why don't I pay my seller? Why don't I pay my seller by offering him a lower commission? And then that listing will generate leads for me. And I guarantee you, leads off of listings are better than any leads out there. Like, you have to be a rock star, like at the top of your game, to convert 4% of internet leads. You know, when I had a direct buyer, meaning somebody contacting me directly, my conversion, 25%. 25%, meaning 1 out of 4 people that contacted me directly, I got as a client on the buy side. Didn't end up selling the house. They weren't interested in the house. But here's how I want you thinking. I'm going to try to save you time, steps, right? Trust me, when I first started, I didn't think like this. But then after a while, it's like, oh, I gotta pitch those people. I gotta pitch myself. So again, when I had that direct buyer, it's all pre-programmed, meaning I know exactly how that showing is going to go. I'm going to show them the property. I'm going to try to sell them the property. I'm going to let them look around. I'm going to answer their questions. But as soon as they tell me they're wrapping up, I'm waiting for them to tell me they're wrapping up, because that's what happens probably, the vast majority of times people do not end up buying that house. But I take that and I switch that conversation and I tell them, why did you call the listing agent? People are dumb. People, not that they're dumb, people don't understand. They don't even know what we do a lot of times. There's this whole NAR lawsuit thing. Talk more about that on Wednesday night. But a lot of times they don't even really know, like, what's a buyer's agent and what's a listing agent. And I want to deal with a listing agent. I've seen buyers work with a listing agent and get taken to the woodshed, pay way too much. Because that listing agent, their duty really is to the seller. Not supposed to be like that, but right. So as soon as I know they're wrapping up, I switch the conversation to, like, why'd you reach out, directly to me? If you don't have an agent, there's a chance you can overpay. I'll make sure you never overpay. I'm very knowledgeable of what homes cost in this area and at this price point. Of course you do. You have a listing. You wouldn't have got that listing if you weren't knowledgeable. That's why doing open houses for your own listing, you will do better. Again, if you don't have listings, try to find some other Dalton Wade agents and conduct their open houses. It's still better than not doing one. But when you're the listing agent, you have more status. Oh, she's just doing an open house because she's a rookie and she doesn't have any listings. Again, people, can still get clients that way, but it's better if it's on your listing. So listings are really the key to success in this business. So again, sometimes you can be more aggressive on the pricing. And then you're gonna wrap it up. You're gonna tell them you're gonna professionally photograph their home. You're gonna pump up your photographer. Again, do not pump anybody up, or never bullshit. Never puff or lie, right? If you love your photographer, tell people, oh, he's great. He's really awesome. He does a great job. Aggressive internet marketing campaign, strong social media, video, open houses, strong follow-up and feedback loop, excellent negotiator. Last year, Dalton Wade sold 6,000 homes. Tell people that. So I had an agent one time. He goes, Phil, I had trouble. I was on a listing appointment, and then she asked me how many houses I sold. And he hadn't sold any. He hadn't been a listing agent before. I'm like, Trevor, this is what you do. If you're new, you're just getting going, we all have to start somewhere. And somebody asks you, like, what are your sales? How many have you sold? Well, I really haven't had any sales yet, but I'm going to work so hard for you. I really want your listing, and you're going to see that I do a great job. My brokerage is very experienced. I have a direct line to, you know what I mean? You got to promote yourself. You're selling. You got the listing. Sometimes people will give you a chance if you hit it head on. He didn't just say, oh, sorry, I guess you're going to give the listing to somebody else. No, he kind of said, hey, I'm going to do a bang up job for you. Work extra hard. You take that disadvantage or that negative and you turn it into a positive. All right, so you're going to summarize, and then here's what's coming next. What's coming next is, what do you think I should list my house for? And you got to be ready. You got to say, oh, I've done some comps. I'd love to chat with you. Here's what I'm thinking. Let me show you why. What are you thinking? Oh, I'm thinking 375. Oh, you're thinking 399. All right. Well, one never knows, even though it's not the greatest market out there right now. And, it does seem to indicate maybe a slightly lower, but I'm willing to try. Let's do it. Let's see what happens. Let's get out there for 30 days. It doesn't matter what you think, what the seller thinks. It only matters what the market thinks. And that's the truth. It only matters what someone is willing to pay. So promote yourself. And you're going to take them through your client testimonials. Again, if you don't have any, we'll talk tomorrow night about getting reviews. You want to pick one site, Zillow, Realtor, Yelp. You want to promote all your reviews, right? All your reviews. You want to be that 5-star agent. You want people to know you are outstanding. Then your contact information, and then, get their thoughts. You're going to get into a discussion about, what the pricing is. Hopefully they're not talking to anybody else, and you can sign them up right then and there. All right, we're just going to touch upon the listing agreement. So, Claren does training. Today she actually did the contract. So one Monday we do the contract, full contract. The other Monday we do the exclusive right of sale listing agreement. We always want to be a transaction broker. We have a sample listing agreement up on, the Dalton Wade website. Take her training. You will learn a lot. She gets high accolades for her trainings. You need to take the ad edit class if you are in Stellar MLS. In the other MLS, there is no kind of ad edit class, but get that class out of the way so when you get a listing, you can get it right in. Posting an open house. I need a little better graphics here, but again, on the MLS, there's a page. It'll say, set up open house. You click on that, you put the date in, the time, make public. So here's the thing with setting up an open house. You want to, again, an open house is an event. You want to, if you're going to be doing an open house on Saturday, you should be promoting it today. You want to get it out there. You want people to see it. Why? Somebody's searching on Wednesday. They see your open house and they come. Another agent has an open house, but they didn't set it up till Thursday, and that client never really saw it, didn't go, and you got that business, right? You picked them up as a buyer's agent. Trust me, it works. 75%, it's a very high number. 75% of first-time home buyers, right, work with the first agent they connect with. Why not you, right? But you got to ask. You got to have strategies. You got to be disciplined. You got to be doing things in a very systematic way. Like when I did an open house, right? I'm logging everybody into Boomtown. I'm asking them right at the open house, can I set them up with a search? I'm then going and, following up, ask them if they'd like to go out and look at some homes. The salesmanship is in getting the clients. The salesmanship isn't so much in actually selling the home. I mean, you want to do a great job presenting the home, right? But homes tend to sell themselves if the marketing is good and they're priced right. So you want to get that open house set up early. You want to have a lot of signage. You want to make it an event. I have one agent, I mean, it's incredible. Like he turns, I mean, just the signs and the promotion and, he's right. And he pretty much drives all his business from open houses. He's been an agent a while, so, it's kicking in. Uploading the attachments. Let's talk a little bit about that. Again, very basic. You've got the seller disclosure, the lead paint, condo rider, HOA addendum, no matter what it is, get those attachments hooked into the MLS. If you're on a listing and these things are not there, more than likely what you're dealing with as a real estate, the listing agent is either new, untrained, lazy. They're not doing a great job. I had an agent call me and say, hey, I'm submitting an offer and there's no lead paint addendum. So I'm like, okay, call the listing agent. He calls and she tells him he needs to prepare it. She doesn't know what she's doing. She's a liability to herself, her brokerage, and potentially us. It's not hard, right? The seller completes the the seller completes the lead paint. You sign it, put everything up online. We're going to talk more about the lead paint disclosure on Wednesday night, right? And then everything is compliant. You've made it easy for the buyer to put a complete, full offer in. All right, receiving an offer. So again, if it's written or verbal, typically verbal or lowball offers, you're going to discuss it with the seller. So again, you're going to think about things a little differently, right? So when you're working with a buyer, you want to put in as small a deposit as possible. Why? Sometimes sellers don't want to return the escrow. So if you have a lot of money tied up in escrow, it's more painful. But when you're the listing agent, you want commitment. You want skin in the game. You want to show, hey, these people are serious about this house. No $1,000 or $2,000 escrow. So that offer comes in and they're offering $2,000 in escrow. Most sellers will fix on the price. How much did they offer? But there are other important terms. The escrow. Oh, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, they're only offering to put $2,000 in escrow. What do you think? Should I go back and ask them to put in $10,000 to show they're committed? Again, what do you think the seller is going to say? Of course they're going to say do that because it's in their best interest. Maybe agree on $7,500. You're here, you're representing the seller, right? Inspection, they come in with a default, 15 days. 15 days. Here's what I learned. People back out on the last day. So now you've had that property off the market for 15 days. Oh, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, they want 15 days to do that home inspection, but this seems like a pretty hot listing. How about they do it in 5 days? And then maybe agree on 7 or 10. Always, always, always obtain a pre-approval or proof of funds. So if they're cash, what is proof of funds? A bank statement, a brokerage statement, a letter from their bank saying they have the money to buy this house. If they're getting finance, you want their pre-approval. Just like, that offer I mentioned, there's no pre-approval. So I called them up and then they sent it in later. You're not accepting any offer without a pre-approval. And then you want to call the lender. Like, what did you do to pre-approve these people? Maybe you say to them, oh, I want my lender to pre-approve them. In addition, can't force anybody to use your lender. Can't do that. That would be a RESPA violation. But hey, I don't want to go 30 days and then find out they didn't get the loan, that there's some hairy credit. Every lender I've met will tell you they can do it until they can't, until it gets turned down. They don't care. They don't care about the client's deposit. So talk to that lender if you can. And if you can and you don't feel comfortable, say, hey, look, we'll go under agreement with you, but my lender needs to take a look at these people. You don't want to waste 30 days finding out in the end they couldn't get the loan. All right, multiple offers. So we only have one home to sell. So, and again, please, never lie. Never tell somebody you have other offers when you don't. Never do that. But if you do have another offer and it's a valid offer and another offer comes in, hey, now we're highest in, multiple offers, highest and best, right? There's no negotiating and countering two buyers. Why? Oh, I sent out two counters and they both accepted them. Now we have a problem. We only have one house to sell. So if you ever have more than one offer, you immediately go to highest and best. We are not negotiating. We are not countering. We are just asking everybody. There's quite a bit of interest in this home. We're asking everybody to submit their offer, their final offer, their best offer by tomorrow at 5 p.m. I've had a situation once where I've got two offers. House is $399, one is $395, the other one is $375. Highest and best. I got two offers. I go back to the agent with the $375 offer. Oh, my client doesn't want to get, be in a bidding war. They're out. They drop out. The guy at $395 goes to $410. He wants that house, and I made him pay for it. You never know. He may have a family member in the neighborhood. You never know what motivates people. Sometimes they want that house. It's the perfect house for them, and they're willing to pay a little bit more. So you want to extract it out of them. So again, anytime you have more than one offer, highest and best. Now, one other thing, whenever you're countering as a listing agent, whenever you're countering, counter verbally. Counter verbally. Why? Gives you more flexibility. If another offer comes in, then you can go to highest and best. If you put a counter out, they can sign it, and then, right, you have to withdraw the counter. Counter people verbally. Now, if you're a buyer's agent, right, you're a buyer's agent and that listing agent is countering you verbally, you have nothing. You have nothing. Say that again. You have nothing. Unless everything is signed, executed, and sent back to you in your email, you don't have an accepted offer. So you want to push that listing agent to accept that offer and get everything over to you, because you never know. Another buyer might come out of the blue, knock your client out. All right. Third-party websites, Zillow, Trulia, Realtor, happens automatically. Just check. It's all based upon your MLS ID, right? That's how it flows in. Again, make sure you have a profile on Zillow. They're free. These things have really good SEO value. Again, you don't want to be that realtor when someone types in your name, it looks sparse. It's not the image you want to be putting forth. Audit yourself. Google your name, realtor. See what pops up. It takes time, but you can fix it. You can improve upon it. All right. So, all right, let's switch gears and kind of move into how to get your business going. Anybody have any questions on the listing presentation? Anything, related to the listing before we move on? All right. So, first bullet, you must find people you do not know to succeed as an agent. Let me say that again. You must find clients, people you do not know to succeed as an agent. We do not have, most of us, the vast majority of us, don't have a big enough network or sphere for that to be, what is a real estate business? I mean, to survive, you kind of got to be doing, if you're doing this full time, you got to be doing one transaction a month. It's highly possible. This guy's name was David. He was at Remax. He never ended up joining Dalton Wade. And, I chatted with him, and he had done four deals. He's probably long gone from the business. 4 deals, all with his friends and family. And then they were done. They're tapped out. He doesn't have any friends or family left to buy anything or sell anything. Then he goes 10 months without any transactions. I'm like, well, what are you doing? I mean, are you on social media promoting yourself there? I don't like social media, he says. What about internet leads? Have you purchased any of those? No, I haven't. What about doing some calling for prospecting? No, I don't do that. Right? He wasn't doing anything. And consequently, he failed. So you got to find people you don't know. You got to be out there hunting that business. It's out there. You got to find it. And then we have a couple things, right? We have our human capital, right? Our human capital is our time. Our time is valuable. Our time is important. Our time needs to be utilized efficiently, smartly. And then your financial capital is your money. A lot of times agents, they don't have a ton of money. They don't have a ton of resources. They're just getting going. Be very careful. Everybody wants, if you're going to purchase anything, everybody wants to sign you up for 6 months. And then guess what? After a month, it's not working and you've wasted your budget. Call me or post in the Dalton Wade Facebook group and ask, has anybody heard of this company? Or go online and Google them and find out. Check out the reviews. We were about to do a deal with a company called sold.com, and the reviews were negative, and then like, hold on, this just doesn't seem right, and we didn't move forward because everything was paid up front. You had to buy 6 months up front, not even month to month. Kind of bad. All right, and then the last one is just, again, kind of a pet peeve of mine. It's a very small thing, but again, in my recruiting efforts, I'm calling agents and there's no voice greeting. There's nothing. It's the generic, leave a message. Be professional. You are marketing yourself. You are the brand. Have that voice greeting. Let people know you're an agent and you're ready to help them, and you'll get back to them quickly. All right. So these are the 5 things that basically I focused on when I was getting my business going, first in Boston. And then, when I moved here, basically started all over from zero. But, I kind of knew what I had to do, and I actually went out and did it, right? So here are the 5 things. Now, again, this is not an all-encompassing list. What are some other things? Probate, bankruptcy, estate sales. There are other ways of generating business. This is kind of what I did. You have to find something that works, right? That you get business from. And the best thing is something that's replicatable, meaning, hey, I bought $1,000 a month in ads from Zillow, and I got a commission. I was getting 4,000 for every 1,000 I spent. Well, hey, let's spend more, right? It's leverageable. You can buy more inventory, more leads. So we've got listings, open houses, internet leads, social media, and your sphere of influence. All right, let's dig into each one. If anybody has any questions as we go through it, type them in. Happy to answer them. All right, listings. What can you do? Right? What is there? Door knocking. So everything here, everything we're going to talk about for the next half hour, 20 minutes, whatever it is, everything, if you type it into YouTube, 50 videos will pop up. Door knocking. Every agent will tell you how they were successful door knocking and what their strategy was. Door hanger. So you went and knocked on their door, they weren't home, and then you left something behind. Let me step back for a second. So there's 2 things, right, to remember here. One, we have a farm. Anybody know what a farm is? A farm is a very tight geographical area. Typically, it's going to be where you live, right? So, your neighborhood, maybe there's 1,000 homes, 1,600 homes, your development, whatever it is, that is your farm. And you want every single person in that neighborhood to know you are the go-to realtor. Now, you're not going to get all the business, but you at least want to be in the mix. The other way is not to have a farm. The other way, and it's primarily around maybe if you're doing some discounting, you're maybe out there with a slightly lower commission on the listing side to meet buyers. Then maybe I'll go anywhere. My was kind of 45 minutes. Try to keep it under that. But I would drive 45 minutes to get a listing. I don't want to go any further than that because then if I meet a buyer, I got to truck out there, spend all that time, right? So I want to keep it, I don't have a farm. I'm going after every FSBO within a 45-minute radius of my home, right? I'm talking to expireds, withdrawns. You got to come up with your strategy. So much of what I find, again, I'll go back to those couple of agents I met with. They're not thinking like this. They're not thinking door knocking, door hangers, using the prospecting tool. They're just kind of floating around. One agent said, "Oh," I'm like, "What are your goals in 2024?" She says, "Oh, I want to sell 3 houses at $1 million." Okay. I mean, wouldn't we all? I mean, it's right. I mean, but she wasn't really doing the heavy lifting, the blocking and tackling. We like this geodata, right? The geodata, we have that tool through our title company called the Turner Title Prospector. It basically will create a farm and then it will tell you who's getting ready to list their home. Those are the people you want to be meeting. Those are the people you want to be approaching. Those are the people you want to be knocking on their door. You want to go knock on somebody's door who just purchased 3 months ago. They're not going to be selling anytime soon. And then again, my thing, right? Again, you got to have your own strategy. You got to figure out how am I going to get listings. I need to put some significant time into prospecting for listings. Mine was calling. 10 calls a day. Every day. I mean, is it fun? No, it's not fun. It's a lot of, it's, you know, it's not the greatest, but, you know, what is 10 calls a day? I could do 10 calls in 1 hour. So 1 hour a day for me, when I was getting going in Florida, I was on that phone calling, primarily FSBOs from Craigslist and Zillow. And then I mixed in some expired and withdrawns, but I made those 200 calls a month. There's 20 days in a month, 200 calls. My numbers were 2%. So that's 4 appointments. Is that better? I think I fixed it. Can you hear me now? Perfect. All right. So I think you get the point. The idea is to make the calls, right? However you do that, whatever, you know, and again, it's not fun. And what is, you know, 4 appointments? Well, the other side of it is 196 rejections. But it worked for me. I got some business. I got listings from doing it. You know, those 4 appointments, I would get 3 listings. You know, no one's really cracked, you know, the seller side online. You know, there's some things like Home Light and some different, you know, programs. But, you know, again, for me, it was actually calling. You know, the cost is, you know, really small. I'm not giving up 35% of my commission if I do land something. I'm keeping it all. Open houses, right? Again, it's a great way to meet potential buyers and impress your seller about getting, you know, the home sold. I mean, I was out there every weekend, at least doing 1 to 2 open houses. Sometimes, you know, in the summer, I call them like commuter open houses, 6 to 7:30. It stays light late. It's all about the numbers. The more people you meet, right, the higher chance they're going to turn into business. You know, get good at doing an open house. Be well dressed, get there early. You know, I often tell this story. So, you know, when I was an agent up in Boston, be out there doing the open houses, and I would have a broker come by. And she came by a few times. I never ended up joining her brokerage, but I was like, interesting. Then, you know, when I came to Florida and then I became the broker, like, okay, I'm going to go to open houses and I'm going to recruit agents. So I went to 50 open houses, roughly. And unfortunately, it was a zero. I didn't recruit one person, none, zero. But wasn't completely a waste of time because I saw how agents conduct open houses, and it is Poor, poor. You know, the thing's supposed to start at 1, they're rolling in at 110. They don't have a lot of signage. They're not dressed well. They're in shorts, flip-flops, t-shirts, logging people in on a piece of paper. You want to impress that person. You want to connect. That's what being a successful real estate agent is at the end of the day. It is connecting with people. Not every person we meet, we're going to connect with. We don't need that. But these agents I saw in action, they're not giving themselves the best chance to succeed. I mean, again, you can go on YouTube, you can go on the internet, type in open house real estate agent, see what's there, see what other people say. I'm just one person trying to help you guys. There's a lot of information. All of these strategies you have to get good at, right? You got to invest some time, some effort, keep at it, keep doing it. Typically, when you do that, good things happen. Internet leads, right? Internet leads, you know, they are not going away. They are part of the landscape. You know, we have Zillow, Realtor.com, OpCity, Prime Street, Google, Facebook. A lot of different ways, you know, to generate interest. So a lot of the business has moved to what are called live transfers of leads. What does that mean? That means you are actually speaking with the potential buyer and maybe scheduling that first showing, that first meeting, right? You've gotten to chat with them. Before, really, OpCity was the company that invented this. Really, before it was all like text and email. And then when you went to call the person, you may never get in touch with them, and it's kind of squandered. So some of the calls are going to be, you know, live transfers. Still, some come in via text and email. You want to call them, you want to text them, you know, you want to email them twice. You never know. And then if they're non-responsive, go into Boomtown. Sometimes their name may not come in correctly. Invite them to your website, set up the property alert, and then set up the drip campaign on them. We track when these leads convert, and oftentimes they take months, several months. You know, I got a call from an agent, and like if you went in Clarence, to give you kind of 2 stars. If you went in Clarence, Boomtown, right? Her Boomtown was like a thing of beauty. It is so organized. Everybody has a to-do. Everybody's in the right category. Everybody has a property alert. If they've been non-responsive, they have a drip campaign hooked to them. What does that mean? Like, what are the results? Like, what happens? Well, I can tell you what happened. She pulled in, true story, same client, two $15,000 $15,000 commissions from a lead. So it's $30,000 in commissions from a lead that was 18 months old. Most agents, that person was like, they never would have done what she did. That's the power of Boomtown. So that's a great story. I have another story. It's not so great. So I get a call from a Dalton Wade agent a few years ago, and says, I got a lead through Zillow, and it didn't go into my Boomtown. So I already know what that means. It means the person's email address is already registered with us. Can only register one unique address. So I look in Boomtown, I find them, and they're with an agent, and they had inquired 5 months ago. And she made a note They also came in through Zillow. She made a note in New York, moving to Florida when their home sells. She never, ever, ever, she never follows up again, ever. Does nothing. Doesn't set them up with a drip, doesn't set up the property alert, doesn't understand. She's out of the business too. She doesn't understand what we're dealing with. We have a database. We have a database of leads. We are database marketers, meaning, right, we use that database and we market to people. We remind people. We tell them we're here, right? With the idea being, hey, now they're ready to buy. Now, if she had been there, if she had kept in touch with them over those 5 months, she would be $11,000 richer. Maybe still in the business. Who knows? But she didn't get it. Agents often are their own worst enemies. So like 1 hour a day, right? You're making those listing calls. 1 hour a day, you are following up on your internet leads. Then you're out there on the weekends, after work, conducting those open houses. Social media. All right. Talked a little bit about Dalton Wade Social. It'll post your listing. It'll create a listing video. It'll distribute it automatically to your Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, right? But what's cool is it'll post your listing on other Dalton Wade agents in your area on their social channels, and then vice versa. So you have more content. Social media is two things. Content, meaning information, what you post, right? We want to be posting relevant things that are interesting to people, right? And then engagement, liking, commenting. Social media is a longer term prospect, right? What you're hoping for is maybe your friend's friend, right? You've invited them in, and then, they're seeing all the great stuff you're doing. And then when they're ready to sell their house or buy a house, guess what? They're reaching out to you. Has a library of real estate content, right? Remember what I said, most agents, their social media is spotty, thin, nothing there. It's bad. Social media can work against you. How's that? Well, when someone checks you out on social, it looks very, very thin. I don't know. Is that the agent I really want to? They don't even look like they're an agent. Is that the person I want on my team? Right? So 1 hour a day, you're going to make those listing calls. 1 hour a day, you're going to work those internet leads. 1 hour a day, you are on social media for your business. You want to split off your personal and your business social channels, right? So you're on your business social channels and you are in there being social. Blogging. I don't know if we have anybody tonight. Let's see. I can't really tell. I have one person on here tonight that's not part of Dalton Wade. Sometimes I have more. Why do I do that? Why do I let people that are not even in my brokerage participate in my training? There's a reason. It's very conscious. They get to know us, they get to, right? And it's the same thing with you, right? Blogging, right? Video, what you want to become and what you want to be communicating to your world is you are the expert. How do you do that? You do that by writing, blogging, maybe have, 10 first-time home buyer tips, whatever it is. I've told people, no one ever takes me up on this. Used to be first-time home buyer seminars. Now you can do a first-time home buyer webinar. It's all about giving to get, right? You're going to give information, knowledge, you're going to share that. And then what you hope, it's not going to happen every time, but what you hope happens is they reciprocate. And then you become their agent because you impress them. You didn't ask them for anything initially, and you helped them. You know, YouTube, I just want to touch upon that. YouTube is extremely powerful, extremely powerful. And it's becoming a little more crowded, but I mean, I have several agents that have developed really strong YouTube channels. I'm going to send you one, you know, in the morning. His name's Dan. I'll send you the link to his. Subscribe to his channel. Keep an eye. See what he does. Copy him, right? I mean, there's nothing proprietary. You're probably not in the same area he is. Even if you are, what does it matter? This guy, what he does, he is like a concierge real estate agent. What do I mean by that? He will pick that client up at the airport. He will take them around and show them the properties. He will take them to their hotel. He will pick them up in the morning and take them out to show more properties. And then he will take them back to the airport. I have written him some incredibly large commission checks. But you got to try. You got to think about it. You got to commit, right? So 1 hour a day, you're making your calls, right? For listings, 1 hour a day, you're on the internet, working your internet leads. 1 hour a day, you're on social. Maybe you're developing your YouTube channel. Maybe you're trying to launch that first time. You got to try some different things. Not everything is going to work. Your sphere of influence, again, you know, very common kind of real estate term. You know, I've never been really a fan of broker open houses, but I remember when I first moved to Florida, I got a listing. I got it off of Craigslist. He was a FSBO, and he asked me to do a broker's open house. So I did it, and I set it up. We had a few people come, and there was a woman from Keller Williams, and she was new, and I'm like trying to recruit her. I think I have maybe 3 agents. So, and trust me, she's long gone. And I'm like, oh, what are you doing? How's it going? How are you getting business? My sphere of influence. Okay. But you don't want to be like David. Remember David? We talked about David. Once he used up his sphere, there was no more sphere to give him any business. So you got to go beyond, right? You got to think differently. Certainly you want your friends, family, business associates. But a lot of you are new to the area. You may not have much of a network. You got to be able to talk to people. You got to be able to strike up that conversation. Like social media can increase your sphere, right? You can meet more people that way. You know, I had an agent. She was on the buyer side. I was the listing agent. This is a few years back. And, you know, I'm like, how'd you get your client? And she told me she gives out 3 business cards a day religiously. Cute lady, yucking it up, talking to people. Hey, if you ever need my service, here's my card. 3 cards a day. She's giving out 1,000 cards a year, 10 deals. 10 deals from her business cards. You know, back before COVID, we used to meet people in person, right? You know, at least I did in recruiting. And, you know, her name is Serena Johnson. She's been a Dalton Wade agent, great agent for a number of years. And I meet her and I interview her, and she's skeptical. She's coming from Century 21, and who's this guy? But then when I meet her, you know, the real estate pin, you know, telling people you're a real estate agent. Her pin is 3 times. It's like a custom pin. It's large. You can't miss it. And On top of it, she has a tagline that says problem solver. She gets a lot of business from that pin. People come up to her and say, it's the icebreaker. It starts the conversation. Again, we go back to the 3 business cards a day. 990 of those cards went without a response, but that's okay. To do really well as an agent, to make 150 to 200,000, right? We all want to make money and be paid for what we do. 20 deals, 20 closings. 20 closings at 8,000 a pop, and that's low. It could be 10,000, right? You get to keep almost all your commission here, right? Where are those deals coming from? How am I going to get 20 deals? Well, maybe the first year you're not. Maybe you're only going to get 12. Oh, I'm going to call 1 hour. You got to work backwards. But you got to say to yourself, oh, I have a plan. We're coming into 2024. I have a plan. And this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to execute against. And based on my plan, I think I can get X number of transactions. It's all about talking to people. I have an agent. His name is Juan. Juan now drives a Tesla, but he had a truck, and he had a broken gas cap. Right? 4 deals, 4 closings from the gas cap. He doesn't tell me how many people he talked to get those 4, but people come up to him. He's a chatterbox, right? He's bilingual, which is awesome, and he chats them up. So you're out there meeting people, whether it's your sphere or people you don't know. Again, kind of pre-COVID, Dolphin Wade's office is in a co-work space, and there's a young lady, and I never seen her there before, and she looks like she's looking lost. I'm like, hey, what's going on? How's it going? And I'm like, what do you do? That was always my go-to line. What do you do? What do you do? And she tells me this is before Zoom. This is before like people work remotely. She works at a company, social media. Everybody's dispersed, and she's having difficulty, working at home. So she wants to go to an office. And then she asked me, what do I do? I led her, right? I led her to where I wanted her to go, which was to ask me what I do. That I could tell I'm a real estate broker, agent, and I didn't solicit her because, I haven't really done any transactions in a while, but because I'm busy with the brokerage, but you get the point. Now, again, many of those people that will say, well, what do you do? They're not going to be interested, but you don't need that many people. What you need is more outreach. If you take anything away from tonight, right, everything we've talked about is doing more marketing, more grassroots guerrilla marketing to meet people. Human capital, your time. It can be done. I've seen it done by numerous agents. I did it. All right, everyone. Any last questions before we call it a night tomorrow night? So in the morning, I'm going to send everybody a copy of this presentation, the listing presentation, some FSBO and expired withdrawn scripts, a link to Dan's YouTube channel so you can check that out. And then a link to tomorrow night's training, which is on the buyer side. We kind of go, all the way beginning to end, right from when we first meet that buyer all the way to closing. Yeah. Hey, Andrea, how are you? Just make sure you sign up, and then I'll send you the link in the morning, and then, everything is recorded. You can watch the replay. Thank you, Kia. Have a great evening. Appreciate everybody being here. Thank you so much. Keep at it. You know, it's a little slow now. This is the tough time between, you know, now and the first of the year. But, you know, kind of once that first of the year, people knew, hey, Lisa, how are you? Good to see you. Thank you. Hey, James, good to see you. All right, everyone. Hope to see you tomorrow night. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you so much. Absolutely, Andres. I hope you got something out of it. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much.